Because understanding great literature is better than trying to read and understand yet another business book. On the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast, we commit to reading, dissecting, and analyzing the great books of the Western canon. You know, those books, from Jane Austen to Shakespeare, and everything else in between, that you might have fallen asleep trying to read in high school. We do this for our listeners, the owner, the entrepreneur, the manager, or the civic leader who doesn't have the time to read, dissect, analyze, and leverage insights from literature to execute leadership best practices in the confusing and chaotic postmodern world we all now inhabit. Welcome to the rescuing of Western civilization at the intersection of literature and leadership. Welcome to the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast.
We do not live in a world of unlimited resources. A small c conservative reading of history demonstrates quite conclusively that we live in a world of boundaries, geographic and material, psychological and spiritual. The boundaries within which we live create in us as human beings a sense of winners and losers, and it tends to lead to a spirit of competition over the material fact of materially limited resources. The internet and the rise, at least in the already wealthy Western world before its rise, of the idea of utopian endless abundance is at its bottom really a deception. Sure, the Western man, the Western woman can order DoorDash, get an Uber, swipe left on a dating app, download more hedonistic entertainment than ever before in human history, and, of course, know more about meaningless information now than ever before in human history. But the thing we don't want to admit, at least the thing that Western man and woman don't want to admit, that lurks way down deep in our souls, is that all this seeming material abundance is really just a hedonistic overlay, disguising the competition and attempting to blunt it, that competition that we all feel in our hearts because we still live in a bounded, limited world. If every material and desire and base appetite can be fulfilled by leveraging technological tools, what we used to call quote-unquote slaves in a more unregenerate and honest era, then where is the limitation, we ask? What are the boundaries? What is scarce? In America, at the very least, where I live, we are finding the answer to that question is that emotional connection, genuine, meaningful, long-lasting, and friction-filled, is the scarce resource we are all looking for. Sure, we give that resource words like connection and meaning. But at the end of the day, we're still, as individuals and corporately, trapped in a zero-sum negotiation with other people around the scarcity of both connection and meaning. In a past era, that more unregenerate and honest one I was just referring, tradition, family, and community tended to anchor individuals in spite of the gee-whiz technology of those particular eras that delivered hedonistic pleasure faster to those particular people. In those past eras, tradition, family, and community anchored individuals to the connections that made meaning, and we were loath to abandon them. But in an effort to experience hedonistic abundance, we in America, and the West in general, abandoned the anchors that once held us together, that once connected us. If you want to know what's scarce, family is scarce. Friendship is precious. Traditions provide meaning. And community with real people in real life is actually meant to be hard, messy, difficult, full of stress and friction. If it were easy, like eating ice cream, everyone would do it well. We do not live in a world of unlimited resources. We live in a world where our appetites are bounded, first by family, traditions, and community, And where and when we break those bounds, then they are bounded by the laws of reality itself. This is neither good nor bad. This is merely a fact. Leaders, of course, consider, discuss, and decide what and where the boundaries are, rather than in an attempt to be empathetic or merciful, allowing the myth of utopian abundance to get a foothold in the emotional life of those they are tasked with leading. And they make the hard decisions in an accountable, responsible, zero-sum way. And they understand that trade-offs are brutal, and that in order to be an adult, you must know that you cannot always get what you want. And well, that's it for me.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Lessons from the Great Books podcast today. And now that you've made it this far, you should subscribe to the audio version of this show on all the major podcast players, including Apple iTunes, Spotify, YouTube Music, and everywhere else where podcasts are available. There's also a video version of our podcast on our YouTube channel. Like and subscribe to the video version of this podcast on the Leadership Toolbox channel on YouTube. Just search for Leadership Toolbox and hit the subscribe button there on YouTube. And while you're doing that, leave a 5-star review if you like what we're doing here on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Just go below the player and hit 5 stars. We need those reviews to grow, and it's the easiest way to help grow this show. And tell all your friends, of course, in leadership. By the way, if you don't like what we're doing here, well, you can always listen to another leadership show. There are several other good ones out there. At least that's what I've heard. All right. Well, that's it for me.